at the Nima Enclave, at the Medina Zongo Junction, at the Sikri Bekwai, at the Koforidua Jackson Park watching football. All these people should be able to understand what really happened in court, so that at the end of the day, moving forward, we're able to see that in our electoral processes, these are the court's dimension, these are the things the courts look at, and then these are the things that the court will determine when these electoral matters come before them. And what I try to do is that I find answers in the book.
Okay.
So this question you have asked me, if I take the civic aspect of a citizen, which I took at the time, that is my civic duty to bring this judicial judgment to the understanding of my citizen, my people. What does the book say? If you look at page 22 of the book you hold it now, if I can look at mine, page 22, yours is the one that the publication is bringing. Mine is the proofread.
Right.
Item 2, if you can permit me.
Yes.
Her Ladyship Akoto Banfo is saying that government in a democratic system of governance derives its life from the people, and that sacredness is made manifest in the electoral system. Among the fundamental precepts in a democracy is the ability to hold periodic, free and fair elections, together with an effective judicial oversight, bearing in view, however, that as a basic principle, it should not be for the court to determine who occupies the highest office of the land, the presidency, is the preserve of the citizen.
Right.
This particular quotation from Her Ladyship Akoto Banfo tells you why that judgment must not stay on the judicial shelf. The judges will understand. We lawyers might have these as case study. We might use it in court when election matters come to court. These are precedent. But what about the ordinary citizen? If you go to what I've just read, Her Ladyship is just trying to say that this democracy is hinged on free and periodic free elections. That's the only time that people can participate. And if that is the only time that people can participate, and we have electoral matters that have been settled upon by the court, forget about the electoral rules. We all knew the rules before we went into the elections. But what happened? When we got to court, we got to see that some of the rules, we didn't even know them very well. And when you go to the realist school of thought, they say that law is nothing pretentious than what the court will say or what the court will do. So beside the rules, if you come to court, the court will pronounce on the rules, and that will be the law. So why should that be on the shelf? If you look at a simple one by His Lordship Badebe, that will be page 56. Yours will be 55. If you look at page 56, briefly, His Lordship Badebe is saying that item 5, paragraph 2. In my opinion, although the claims made by the petitioners are of great import in our evolving constitutional democracy, and it is keeping with the requirement of the rule of law as a byproduct of law, however, the demands contained herein must have their source and resolution within the law. That's what the point is. So whatever we go to court to talk about as an allegation, it must have a source from the law. So if you say biometric verification, there should be a certain law that brought it to be. And then if there's a matter that governs it and there's a problem, its resolution must be found in the law. And it is not in the EC regulations. It is in what the court will say.
So all these matters
are the reason why this book is supposed to come out. If not, it stays on the judicial shelf.
And then the ordinary person is unable to understand.
And then we might end up
but George, this whole thing was released in 2013. Now we are in 2016, about a few more days to the election. Why did it take you so long, to put together this book? Because people are saying that, well, we are just close to the election, and this is something that would have been very beneficial if maybe it might have come earlier. But why that long? Almost 3 years to put together this book.
Thank you very much. We all know the adage, it's better late than none. Now that it's come, it's come. It's come to stay. What is going to happen is that because the EC has trained the officials, that's the presiding officers, and then the parties have also trained their agent, the EC has also trained them, it is assumed that they are prepared. But this is coming as a reference point. So at the end of the day, if even we have 6 days, 7 days, if there's any contention as to what did Justice Doche say about overvoting, you just look at you flip the pages, the content, and then you go straight and you refer, and then it comes to bear. So the point is that it's coming a little bit late, but it's coming to help to resolve the very questions we are asking. Last Friday, I was listening to radio and route home, and I heard Mr. Ofosu-Ampofo. If it's clear, City FM, that record can be checked. And I think he said there was an IPAC meeting that Friday, and there was a haggling over what overvoting is. As to say that, as we stand here today, some few days to the election, we still don't know what overvoting is. I was a little bit sad, because all the answers we are looking for is in the judgment of the court. And that's what I've tried to do. So even beside this book, the judgment of the court would have shown the citizens of this country what overvoting is. And not 10 days or 12 days or let's say 1 month to election, we still want to haggle over what overvoting is. Then it means that we are not just understanding what the court said. And if we go back the court will tell us the same thing they said. Because don't forget, judges, very difficult for them to change their mind if they know they were on the right path. Okay. So whatever his lordships and ladyships have opined in their judgment, which you said 500 and something pages.
Yes.
Now this book is about 208 or 20 pages. What I did was to compile the most important aspect of the judgment. So I've used almost a year and a half, because it's about writing, the editorial, even there too. All these are very important. This is a judicial judgment. I'm not supposed to add anything. So as you said, I've not added anything. I've just compiled. If I want your earlier submission, like I summarized, I've not summarized. It will be very critical for me to summarize a judicial pronouncement. Okay. I've only put it together by compiling them. So that if I take page 1 of Justice Atuguba, and he was speaking on voting without biometric verification, paragraph 1, he will say something that paints, but judges speak in certain connotation. He might try to add other current affairs. That will be in paragraph 2, 3, 4. But then paragraph 5, 6, he comes back to the subject. So I pick paragraph 1, skip some of the things that he said in paragraph 2, 3, 4, come to 5, support the paragraph 1, and then his concept of what he means by voting without biometric verification. It's made clear. So I've just compiled. Okay. That is why it took me time. All right. To do this. Now
let's look at the target audience for this book. Who specifically are you reaching out to in this book, apart from just the general person walking the streets of Accra or Ghana or anywhere for that matter? Who are the core people you believe once they get access to the information in this document, it will indeed improve our election process and all that is involved in it?
Thank you very much. Ordinarily, I think it's for the citizens, because politics involves all of us. So it's for politicians, it's for the citizens of this country. But it's also important for lawyers and judges. Because this is a precedent. Every electoral dispute that will go to our court of law, this will be the reference point. So it's good for judges, it's good for lawyers, it's good for law students, and like I said, the citizens. But as we speak today, critically, because of the time, my wish is that this civic duty of mine doesn't go to waste if we're able to even get presiding officers to lay hands on this book. By extension, what I mean is that if the 29,000 police station is supposed to get a copy of this book, so that all stakeholders can have that leverage to refer. Like I said, as it is now, because of the time, it is a reference point. If they are preparing for the conduct of the polls and anything comes up and they want to be clear in their mind, what is the role of a polling agent? Polling agent and presiding officers were decoupled, but about 6 of the judges said, no, you can't decouple them. They do the same thing. The constitution and the regulations of the law empowers all of them. And some judges made it clear that the petitioners thought that the polling agents were mere ornament observing the elections. Some judges said, no. The Statute was very hard on that. He said, no, that is erroneous. They are not mere observers. So the point is that when these matters come up, it will serve as a quick reference. So my target as it is today is the 29,000 polling station. I don't know how the EC is going to do it. I don't know what it's going to be for the presiding officers. But if 29,000 of this is to be there, all of us will be able to understand that we have a quick reference point. And it will not be too late.
And that brings up the issue of cost, because 29,000 polling stations having access to the book. Is this something you are virtually going to give for free, or how do you intend to get all these 29,000 people to get this book?
Thank you very much. And the 29,000, I've now linked them to the polling station. So more or less now it's a nexus. And the nexus go all the way to the EC. Definitely I cannot do this for free, because it has to go through publication and it costs to produce. What I have done is my civic duty to put it together. I'm not so much interested about the commercial aspect. Yes, I'll be happy about commercial aspect, but if my citizens are able to know that my little contribution is bringing this judgment of the court that must not stay on the judicial shelf to the ordinary man, I'm okay and satisfied. But to be able to have a peaceful election, now we have all these mantras all over the place. How do you call it? Society issues when it comes to people who are putting up their best. If corporate Ghana would want to join that for a peaceful election, that for a smooth election, that for a transparent election, let's help the EC acquire these for the officers. It's welcome. If you look in that book, KPMG was highly praised by Justice Atuguba and all the judges for the fact that they counted the pink sheet and never took a dime for that. That was huge money when it comes to KPMG, because KPMG is an international organization. They would have charged Ghana heavily for that, but they dispensed of that. And the judges praised them, that they are lovers of democracy and they are lovers of Ghana. If these multinational companies, if these corporate bodies out there think that they want to go to work on the 8th of October, they want a peaceful Ghana, they want to continue to do business, it's not less than none, because the judgment of the court is in this book. And I think that electoral officers, stakeholders must lay hands on this book. Because if, as at last Friday, at IPAC meeting,
No,
there will
issues
still
of
be an
overvoting.
issue as sort of voting.
Then
I'm
it's
very
an
sad
issue.
because the answers are here.
Right. George, so speaking of the EC, have you made a copy available to the EC? And what has been the response like with the copy you have already submitted to the EC, if you have?
Yeah, thank you very much. I've made about 4 or 5 copies, I think 4 or 5 copies, digital copies. You know, the proper production is the normal production. The one you're holding is the digital one because of the time. So I have to do the digital publication first to serve the EC so that the commissioners can have a look at it. So I've already served the commissioners and I've made my civic input to them. Everything I'm doing now is based on our electoral officers laying hand on the judgment of the court, so it doesn't become a judgment on the shelf. Like I said, we are lawyers. Our judges will know. We will definitely know because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But why will it be kept on the judicial shelf when this matter is about election and election is about the people? So I think that it's better late than none. Corporate Ghana, I mean MTN, Vodafone, Talo Ghana, all of Nestle Ghana, all of them, VRA, GMPC, all of them. GMP supports football. And I'm saying that it's better late than none. If presiding officers or if the presiding, the polling station is able to lay hand on this book, the coalition officers, they will all use it. It will be a reference point for them. Even at the end of the day, after the vote has been counted, if it goes over by 1, and the presiding officer thinks that a lot of argument and whatever, he doesn't want to, he's not able to take decision. He lays his hand on this judicial judgment. He lays his hand on the court's judgment. Looks at what Justice Atugba said that if it goes over by 1, if it goes over by 2, what happens? If that presiding officer goes to the law, which is this precedent, and decides that it's gone over by 1, I'll record it, but then I'll pass it. That person has acted under the law. So
George,
these are the reasons.
George, let's come back to the details of the book. You have obviously gone through the entire 588 pages and you understand what the recommendations are, the concerns and issues that our justices raise. Now, from what you said, do you see all the various stakeholders involved in the electoral process have been, or do you see them to have adhered to some of the recommendations or some of the issues that our justices raised in this judgment?
That's a tough question because this becomes an internal affair. If I sit here and say, how will I know how CPP has been able to deal with the judgment? But my little encounter with the EC, my indication I get is that they are training the officers, they've trained them, and when I first made this known, there was a little input that they're training them on the laws as well, the judgment and the. But I'm saying that right on the back of what I heard on City FM just last Friday, that's about 3 days ago, and it tells you that what is in the book, we have not really perused it, we have not looked at it. And if we have not looked at it, a slight single matter can take us back to the court again.
Yes.
And I'm telling my fellow citizens that when we go back, the judge, the court, will tell them the same thing that they told them. Because if the panel is made, and what transpired in the court that citizens must know is that the judges now were in 2 folds. There were the realists, which I told about, those who believe what the court will do with the law. And then the positivists, those who think law is a command, obey it. If you don't obey, there's a sanction. The 3 judges in my book, I have part 1 judges and part 2 judges. Part 1 judges are the judges who dismissed the petition. They were the realists. This year's presiding officer have not signed. But will that protect the right to vote? The right to vote in Article 42 is paramount in our democratic system. Like I said when I read Justice Akuto Banfo, that the nexus between the government and the people is the periodic free election. That's the only time the people can participate. The guy at Sehubekwa, he doesn't want to be a minister. He doesn't want to be an MP. His only participating is voting. Right. So if he's very much versed about the voting rules and regulation, vis-a-vis the courts and what the laws of electoral regulation will be, that person will be properly informed to protect the sanctity of the elections. So these are the dynamics.
Okay. Now, in rounding up the conversation, let me put this to you. You know, some have already argued that after the election, this book, for that matter, may become irrelevant. Do you side with that assertion?
No, I beg to differ. Because after the election, that is when some citizens, some human beings do things the way they want to do it, maybe posts or after. After the election, a discerning Ghanaian was, okay, fine, now this book is in the general, the public domain, and we've finished voting. If anybody wants to bring about a petition, it should be 28 days. Now, this is 3 days after the election. Let me get a copy of this book and begin to equip myself as to what these overvoting and issues will be, so that if somebody rises as a petitioner, if I sit in my sitting room in my Sehubekwa, would that person be making a case? Especially if I was in that particular polling station and that person wants to go to court because you said that presiding officer didn't sign. That person who have read this book will know the stand of the judges. Could advise that person, please, if you take a step there, you will meet the same stand by the judges. Because like I said, judges, when they take decisions, they think through it. So it's very difficult to reverse it unless new events emerge. New matters arise that the court was not privy to before the judgment was made, before the decision was made.
Yeah.
But if you are to go to court and there are no new issues, no special circumstances, they will stay by their decision. And the positivists and then the realists.
Yeah.
In this judgment, the realists were about 6. The positivists were 3. His Lordship Ansa J, His Lordship Owusu, and His Lordship Eniegwa. They were the positivists. They were the one who said, Article 49.3 says President of must sign. He didn't sign. I will uphold the Constitution. That's how the positivists behave. It doesn't mean he's wrong. In the jurisprudential area of law, the school of thought, the positivists, that's how they think. That law is a command, you must obey. If you don't obey, bear the sanctions. The realists, and the Americans, they do that more. We call them the American realists. They believe in law being pragmatic. You have chaos on the street. You have laws governing child labor and all that, and they are still there. When the matter goes to court, they will use pragmatism and societal feeling to judge. So all the 6 of them who granted that, yes, presiding officer have not signed, but the party agent have signed. It's a clear indication that the conduct of election was clear. Therefore, we will forget it because we are realists. Law must be seen to be moving. It should be in action. It shouldn't be because it is written in the book. It ends there.
Okay.
So these are the dynamics.
Okay.
And if you have a copy of the book, you're able to appraise yourself to these things. And then when the issue of, Ghana, we discuss a lot.
Yes.
When we are playing our drafts,
discuss
those things. So when you are privy to this, as you are discussing, somebody might make a comment that then you chip in based on the knowledge you have. And definitely knowledge is always in written books.
Okay.
And my only contribution is to compile what our Supreme Court has done. And as you see the title, Judicial Code for African Elections. His Lordship quoted a lot of judgment from Nigeria and all that. So this book, vis-a-vis other African countries, will also have an African connotation because our elections are similar.
All right. So the very final question to you, I mean, for those who have watched and listened to this interview, who may be very interested in getting a hold of a copy, is it readily available, or they should give you a period of time? It will be available in the market and you can walk to any bookshop and, for that matter, pick up a copy.
I think my target was to get the EC to understand and go with me. Like I said earlier, my greatest wish is if even the presiding officers get it and my other citizens don't get it, it's okay to protect the election for now, but they will know it's around. And we have a lot of elections. If God gives us life and strength, there are a lot of elections to come. My advice to them is that because of that targeting of the EC to give the green light for me to see if I can command the publishing house to make a certain number of copies, it's on hold now. But at least, it's better late than none. By the 3rd or 4th of December, publication will come and some copies will be available for concerned citizens to lay their hands on it.
Great. Wow. Thank you very much, George Tete Wayo. And you have listened to this interview. And we are saying that we need to get as much information as we need to enable us to do our thing as a citizen of the country, or to make the right decisions. And this is a book you should definitely lay your hand on to be able to get the details of it.